What's up, everybody? Once again, it's your boy Brooklyn Mclinn, and we're back with quote number 12 in this series from my book of favorite quotes, A 30-Day Transformation to Becoming a Better You. Um, Today is January 18th. It is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Today is a holiday. And before we get into quote number 12, I just wanted to mention a couple of quotes from Martin Luther King that have inspired me, and talk a little bit about them. Here's a quote from Martin Luther King. It says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." Wow, that's really profound. I mean, when you think about, those times in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and with the world wars, um, a lot of civil wars in other countries, the fight for civil rights here in the United States of America, um, a lot of people had stuff to say and were fighting for a lot of, arguably good causes. Independence, freedom, equality, first-class citizenship, voting rights, um, fighting against, what was perceived to be unjust wars. Um, and there was a lot of opposition to those, fighting against the establishment, um, through the police, through the military, through the government, through just old ways of thinking. You know what I mean? During that time, we were only, not even 100 years removed from the end of slavery. So there was still a lot of, you know, deep-rooted, you know, stuff going on back then. And, when I read this, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. It's, you know, those of us who could have done something but didn't, could have spoken out but didn't for, for whatever reason. Sometimes it's fear, just not wanting to be involved, wanting to be left alone. Um, maybe you don't really have any stake in the debate of what's, happening, transpiring. Um, and it's not about right and wrong for me. It's really individual. But you only know if deep down you could have spoken out, you know, um, to aid someone who you know in your heart of hearts was being unjustly done, and you didn't speak out, right? Like, you can't really be mad at somebody's perspective if you disagree with it because they have the courage to state what they believe. But it's those of us who have an opinion, and don't do anything, don't speak. And I know I've been guilty of that, um, which is what contributes to me doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now, in trying to push, personal development and self-love and universal laws, and taking ownership of your life. And, I was complaining a lot about society, um, the government, the economy, things that were going on in my family. Um, and I felt like I didn't have any real control over anything. And I just kind of wanted to be left alone, was angry, bitter, and, wouldn't really speak out when I saw things that I thought were BS or unjust. Excuse me. And I would say, a few years ago, like, it really started to bother me because I caught myself complaining. Like before, I thought complaining was all right. You know what I mean? It's like that's what people do, complain. And then once I realized complaining doesn't really serve anything, and I found myself complaining about certain things, I had to ask myself, well, what are you doing to be a part of the solution? And it was a really eye-opening moment for me because I was like, yeah, what are you doing? You know way too much to be silent. You know what I mean? So you understand how society works and government works and how this thing that we live in is based in fear and violence. Right? You understand that. And then you also understand how to pull yourself up out of that, by focusing your attention on love and prosperity and gratitude and generosity and compassion, and you're not saying anything, or you're not saying enough where it matters, at least to me, in my opinion. So I try to be more aggressive about it and trying to shoot more videos and speak and write and coach the youth. I coach youth basketball just to kind of be around boys and boys of color to, set an example. Because when I came up, it was always the moniker, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that's got lost somewhere. Um, but I just, I try to, put as much of my time into those things as possible. So, um, yeah, that's a really, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Help out where you can. And only you know what that truly is for you. And it's not for anyone else to judge, but on a spirit level, on a consciousness level, if you're doing as much as you can. If you are, man, congratulations. Congratulations. If you're not, we need you. We need you to really step up. Um, Socrates talks about, you know, you can't focus. You should focus all your energy on creating the new as opposed to fighting the old. So we need, you know, all you people that are available to participate, to join in and help create something new. We have enough people fighting against the old regime and the old ways of doing things. Like, that's not how you win this game. You focus your attention on what you want to see. Um, so that's my little 2 bits on, Martin Luther King Jr. Whether you love the dude, hate the dude, he had courage to stand up for what he believed in. We are all flawed. He didn't do everything, in the most highly spiritual way, but when you weigh his life and his accomplishments, you can't be mad at the dude. So that's my acknowledgement of this day. Martin Luther King, happy birthday. Thank you for, doing what you did and paving the way. And, your life is no more important or less important than anyone else who's come before me to make it easier for me. But today's your day, so I honor you. Happy birthday. All right, cool. Number 12. All right, and as always, if you're just seeing this or you're catching up, there's links to the other 11, but we're going to keep it moving. Number 12, which is, could argue is related to the Martin Luther King quote we just used. This one is, nothing will ever change while you point the finger of blame. Out of responsibility comes possibility. Okay? Reading that one more time. Nothing will ever change while you point the finger of blame. Out of responsibility comes possibility. And that's by Lisa Prosen. What does it mean to take responsibility? Responsibility means the state or fact of being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something within one's power, control, or management. In essence, responsibility means stop being a victim. Take ownership for your part in all things that happen to you. Refrain from blaming conditions outside of you for what has happened. If it is a relationship that is not where you want it to be, before laying blame on someone or something else, ask yourself, what is my part in the outcome? What is my contribution to either this working or not working out for me? When we blame, we are giving responsibility to, or we are finding fault with something or someone outside of ourselves. We are rendering ourselves powerless and becoming a victim. Blame usually comes with negative emotions. Negative emotions require blame to survive. If you stop blaming, you stop negative emotions. I was great at blaming society and people for why I was where I was. I would say if my dad didn't die, if my brother didn't go to jail, if the stock market didn't crash, if there wasn't racism, any reason I could to justify me not accepting responsibility for where my life was. And I could argue all my excuses were valid. But where does it get me? It puts me on a continuous path to nowhere. I had to make a decision to change and start accepting responsibility for where my life was. If I wanted something different, it would be me who would have to do something different. You might ask how to stop blaming. Say to yourself, I am responsible. The thought of responsibility and the thought of blame can't exist at the same time. If you are like me and have been someone who has blamed before, I'm asking you to not beat up on yourself for doing so and to forgive yourself. You are a healthy person to the degree that you can forgive and forget offenses that happen to you. What helps me is that I accept that no one is intentionally trying to inflict pain or cause harm to me. I believe that everyone is doing the very best that they can. So if someone or something comes up short of my expectation or an expectation they've made a promise on, I accept my part in it and move on. Whether it is your parents for mistakes they've made, a relationship that hasn't worked out, or any situation that you perceive has offended you, remove the blame. Take back your power. Choose to accept responsibility and declare to no longer be a victim. Now, possibility arises when we accept responsibility because in every moment there's an opportunity or possibility to do something better feeling in the very next moment. Every mistake is an opportunity in the very next moment to make a better choice. Take that finger of blame you've been pointing at others and point it at you because that's where the responsibility ultimately lies. Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you can do better. Okay? That's number 12. Nothing will ever change while you point the finger of blame. Out of responsibility comes possibility. So let's reflect a little bit. I mean, I talked a little bit about it with the Martin Luther King quote, but, about being guilty of being silent. I was guilty of blaming. I would blame any and everything that I could to justify why my life was where it was. And, it started for me primarily when my dad passed away as a teenager and my oldest brother got into some trouble and had to go away. So I was, kind of smooth sailing with my life up until that point. I never really knew any real adversity. I mean, I saw things, experienced things, had been mugged, had been jumped, gang stuff, but no, real, I hadn't dealt with death, let's put it like that. Death at so close to home, let's put it like that. So when my dad passed away, and my brother went away, I was really lost, man, what part of the game is this? I was cursing God, because I didn't understand. Nobody explained to me that this could go down like that. And so I was blaming. I was mad at my father, I was mad at my brother. Anything that didn't go the way I thought it should, it was never my fault. And I could argue, we can all make a case for why it really wasn't my fault, but at some point it is mine. Because when you think about it, at least when I think about my situation, My dad only died once, right? My brother only went away once. Um, but I kept replaying those events over and over and over and over in my mind. So it's almost like my dad died 100,000 times because I kept reliving it. My brother went away 100,000 times because I kept reliving it. You know, when the stock market crashed at the end of '99 and I lost a lot of money, I kept reliving it. Right? Relationships that went south, I kept reliving it. So it was easy to blame when it feels like it's happening over and over and over, but it's like, no, that's me. I got to take responsibility for staying stuck. And, you know, at the end we talked about what Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you can do better. I didn't know any better but to blame. Now, I'm not sitting here saying people didn't come across my path at some point in life and try to pull me out of it, but I wasn't in a place where I could receive it. The student wasn't ready. So once I accepted that it couldn't be every situation, couldn't be every person, like it had to be me, I'm the common denominator, then it's like, okay, what's my part in what's happening in my life? Well, I keep replaying these events in my head. Can you stop doing that? Yeah, I can stop doing that. Can I make more money? Yeah, I can make more money. Can I develop better as a human being and as a person and meet, you know, a better relationship? Yeah, I can do that. So out of accepting responsibility arose possibility. Staying stuck, you know, I'm gonna keep repeating the same cycle. So once I took responsibility and stopped blaming other people for, you know, their transgressions or their whatever, because like I said in the as we read, you know, I accept that everybody's doing the very best that they can. You know, our parents are doing the very best they can. You might not, it might not be the best for you in your development, but they weren't intentionally trying to screw you up or screw us up. So I accept that people are doing the best that they can. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm not trying to intentionally, you know, hurt people, but I know I've done it. So if I want that courtesy, then I give that courtesy. So there's no need to blame when people are doing the best they can. If you don't like what you're saying, then you improve on yourself. And that's what I did. It's like, I'm going to improve myself so I can be better, right? So I can give a better example. Let me accept responsibility for where I am in my life, right? At this very moment, you know, I accept responsibility for living in an apartment, working diligently to get back in the house, former homeowner, right? Now, am I grateful for where I live? Absolutely. I know there's people that don't even have what I have. Very grateful. But we live in an expansive world and I desire more. And it's for me to go out and do more to be an example for other people to see that it's possible. That if you take responsibility for your life and your actions and your decision making and your choices and the thoughts that you think, out of that comes possibilities. Because now you can do whatever you want. Right? I'm not talking about infringing on anybody else's happiness, but you can create the life that you want. So that's pretty much it. I'm trying to keep these videos a little bit shorter because I can be guilty of information overload. Um, so number 12, once again, is nothing will ever change while you point the finger of blame. Out of responsibility comes possibility. Lastly, thank you for all those that came out to Life Strategy Meetups, first workshop of the year about self-love. You see, I'm always promoting it. We had a great time. We talked about self-love and what it is and why it's important and why we struggle with it and how we can go about improving and becoming better versions of ourselves. So be on the lookout for the next one. I'm not sure what the topic will be, but as always, thank you. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. It's going by fast. We're already 3 weeks into January. So I hope whatever you're deciding to do, that you go ahead and do and don't wait, because time waits for no one. right? January is almost over. Um, so, till next time, it's your boy Brooklyn Mclinn. Peace.